from the Isle Island to Nassau. Flew from Nassau to Tampa, got in his car, drove to Jacksonville, so at least 2 full days, possibly 3, had passed before he went to the police station with my mother, because my mother had gone to the police station and they had told her that because she was married to this man and he was my legal stepfather, that she couldn't file any kind of kidnapping charge against him because, you know, he was entitled to take me where he wanted to take me. So when my grandfather got in there, he apparently was a little more forceful than my mother, and they began to take it seriously, which is why when they spotted my stepfather driving down the road with me in the car, they began to pursue. So that's kind of the backstory.
Do you know how many days went by?
Well, my mother, when I finally questioned her, she didn't really remember. She just said it was several days. And as I just said, I figure it must have been 2 or 3 because of the time that, could have been 3 or 4, because of the time it took for the information to get to my grandfather, for him to get there.
Were they wealthy? I mean, you know, you're saying he flew from here to there and so on and so forth.
My grandparents were, you know, like middle-class people. He was a marine engineer. He designed and supervised the building of ships. Before that, he'd done bridges and dredges and so forth. And
was your father?
He was very well off.
I mean, wait, was your stepfather employed at that time?
That I can't tell you. I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Did you ever see him in uniform?
No, but that was a peculiar thing because after this event, according to my mother, they went to the police station to sign papers to press charges. And when they got there, they found that he had been taken into custody, that the Navy Department had showed up to take him into custody because he belonged to them. And later on, it was suggested that he worked for O&I. And I, of course, read a great deal about the kinds of experiments that they were doing on people.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
Okay, and he wasn't kidnapped?
No.
Interesting. And what is your, you know, if you don't mind my asking, are you Celtic?
Well, I suppose.
Well, the reason, you know, there's a basis for that because I don't know if you're familiar with Duncan O'Finian, the super soldier that we interviewed, but his background is Celtic and Native American, and they were looking for, he was basically picked up as a child. His father worked for the CIA. And so what they seem to have done, especially back in the 50s, was to target the children of people that were related to the military and special, you know, services.
Well, I can tell you a little. I mean, my genealogy is up on the internet, on my website. I got into genealogy at one point pretty obsessively, you know, 9 or 10 hours a day for a year. And finally my husband said to me, you know, when are you going to be satisfied when you get back to Adam? And then I realized I'd been giving him way too much time. But I'm descended from the Percys of, you know, Henry Hotspur fame. That's an interesting family. That's also
That's an Illuminati name, though, isn't it?
I don't think so, because the Percy family that now carries the name is not even, you know, blood relation to the original Percys. The Percys spent a lot of time in opposition to the royal ruling families of England. You know, quite a few ancestors ended their days in cages hanging from the outside of castle walls. Their castle, which of course no longer belongs to them, there's a family called Percy that's there, you know, the Duke of Northumberland, is the castle that they filmed Harry Potter films in, by the way.
But you're saying that's not your family?
No, the people who are currently carrying the name aren't even Percy's.
Interesting.
They took the name, and
so their real name is listed, you know, like is
actually their name was Smithson, and they are directly related to the individual who went to America and created the Smithsonian Institution. And also, there's another branch of the family, I hate to admit this, but I've got to tell you, that another branch of the family are the Pierces that gave birth to Barbara Pierce and married George Bush.
Really?
Very distant relation, very distant.
No, it's, it's all in the human family, right? So,
They spell their name with a P-I-E. My Percys, when they came to America, they spelled it P-E-A-R-C-E. So there was, an immediate split, like in 1600, that's how long ago it was. So don't hook me up with those people.
No, I hear you. But to get back to the story, so when did your memories, of this incident in which, we don't know what happened exactly, I don't know, at least you're not telling me at the moment, but did you find out what exactly happened to you during those 4 days in some kind of regression therapy?
Well, this was something that really bothered me because, as I said, I have a pretty photographic memory, and I can remember all the way back to being an infant in the high chair being fed. Those are some among my earliest memories, not even being able to handle a spoon myself, but being conscious, fully conscious of myself and the people around me in the room, and having memories of what's going on. So having a period of my life that was just like, that began rather dramatically and ended rather dramatically, of which I had absolutely no memory, was something that really bothered me. So, I worried with it for years, and of course, a lot of my work in hypnotherapy was helping people recover memories, but the unfortunate thing is I'm like not hypnotizable.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did you find that out
when I trained in hypnotherapy? Because you have the teacher and you work on each other, you practice on each other. The teacher works on you, practices on you, and I'm really not hypnotizable. So, even trying to deliberately go into like a self-hypnotic state, when I'm not concerned about somebody else, giving up control of somebody else, even that doesn't work. Because there's this conscious watching part of my mind, this analytical thing that never turns off. So, it worried me, and I thought about it a lot over the years.
Memories back.
And it became even more of a worry because after Tom French did his article about me in the St. Pete Times back in 2000, was it 2000? He'd spent 5 years practically living in our house because he thought that what I did was interesting. And we talked about this, and he was curious about it, and that kind of reawakened it.
I see.
And, what happened, and he interviewed members of the family and confirmed, my memory. But we nobody ever really knew what happened, so it started to worry me, in the sense of nagging in my mind. And I asked my husband to go with me to a highly recommended hypnotherapist. I was going to try again. And I thought, if I can just try, and if my husband's there in the room with me, and I can really, really relax, maybe I can get there and I can do it. So we went and we tried, it didn't work. This woman tried everything, every trick in the book. She was good. She really was good. But, I'm sitting there. The whole time I'm analyzing her technique, I would have drawn that out just a little longer. I would have phrased that slightly differently. Oh, good touch, yes, like that. I'll remember how to use that. That sort of thing. So, but then what I started doing, I started doing pre-sleep work, which was I would start to really think about it every night before I go to sleep, really get intense and think about it and go through everything I could remember right up to that moment, and then what I could remember, and just, like slice by slice. And my husband and I were talking about a lot of things, and I was going through a lot of emotional releases on many things because I was using my own breathing program, breathing and meditation program that...
And what year was this, would you say?
This was in 1997, 98.
Okay.
So what happened was I started having very vivid dreams that I thought were related to this. And one night I actually had a dream where I had gone to sleep thinking about everything right up to the point where we arrived at this house and went inside and got the bottle. And the dream continued on with what happened. And it was like so intense and so real that I woke up sobbing, just sobbing uncontrollably. And my husband, what's going on? And I said, I remembered.
Wow.
And I'm really convinced that I did remember. But this is one of those things where you have no empirical evidence. You're still depending on a very fallible human mind. The human mind, I know as well or better than anyone how fallible it is, how impressionable it can be. So I can tell you what I remembered in this dream, but I cannot tell you that it's a fact.
Okay.
And I cannot even tell you that I believe it. And this is where you'll find me a little bit different than most people, because I don't believe anything. I assign probabilities, and probabilities can change, with the addition of new information. But I would give it greater than 50%, maybe going up towards 65 or 70% probability of being probably what happened.
Okay, and do you want to share?
Well, it's something that I'm sure that other people have talked about these things where I remember being in a room and it seems to me that they were using some kind of drugs like LSD to experiment on me, to put me in an altered state to then try to program me. And the programming was designed to make me repressed, shy, withdrawn, what would you say, somebody who doesn't like to make friends or can't make friends, or is afraid to make friends, or is afraid to speak to other people.
And this is at the age of like three. Yeah, incredible. I mean, the fact they start so early is fascinating. But this is where you actually had that. I mean, I think you should describe, because we talked earlier about the actual vision that you saw and the repeated, because that is a programming technique, I believe.
Well, it started out that first I was in a room, just a bare room, with a wooden floor, sitting on the floor. I'd been given some little toys to play with. I don't even think I was a blanket or anything. I think it was totally bare. And I was sitting there, and somebody came in and gave me something, and then they said, you just wait here and we'll be back. And so I'm sitting there just, looking around at the room. And as I was looking around, all of a sudden the walls started melting. And I understand that this is a fairly common effect of hallucinogenic substances. And the next thing was, I remember being taken into what was like a classroom scene. And I was taken in, and in front of the class, this, like a woman took me in and introduced me to a teacher and the children, and everybody was very friendly and smiling and like a very happy, new kid at school, totally accepted by everyone. Here's your seat, everybody friendly, all the children, saying all these nice things. Sitting down in my desk, and the little girl next to me says, "Come we be best friends," which is what any little kid wants to hear. And of course, to me, it was like wonderful, because my dream at that age was to go to school. Here I am in a real school. And there's other children, and they like me and they accept me, and so I sit down, and this little girl passes me a note, and the next thing that happens is all these soldiers come exploding into the room with guns firing, and everybody gets blown to bits. I mean, just really horrible. I mean, with, bodies bouncing and flopping around, and brains coming out, and blood and bits of bone, and gore and everything, and it splattering all over me, and then I'm the only one left standing.